was shocked to discover that my little basket could actually see clearly beneath the water, so I stuffed every crack with tree branches and built myself a crude pair of diving goggles by hand. I was ready to explore the mysterious world underwater, but without any way to breathe, I barely took 2 steps into the water before the goggles had me gasping for air. Still, I wasn't about to give up that easily, so I used plant roots to make a breathing tube. But the second I went underwater, the tube quickly filled with water. My second attempt failed too, and I nearly choked after swallowing a mouthful of water. So this time, I made an even longer breathing tube. Nothing was going to stop me from exploring the world, but the moment I went underwater, the longer tube just tipped over, and once again, I almost choked to death. After failing over and over again, I still refused to quit until I noticed duckweed floating on the surface, and suddenly got an idea. So I built myself a floating breathing tube, and this time, I finally made it into the underwater world. The sight in front of me was so beautiful, it completely stunned me. Every corner of the underwater world was bursting with life. Lush greenery was everywhere. Every single thing I saw kept reshaping how I viewed the world, especially when that unbelievably beautiful giant fish slowly swam toward me. I couldn't take my eyes off it at all, but what I didn't realize was that the fish was actually trying to eat me. If my dad hadn't stepped in just in time, I probably would have ended up in its stomach already. But even after barely escaping with my life, I still had no sense of danger. I even proudly showed off the diving goggles I made to my dad. To crush that dangerous curiosity of mine, Grandma brought up the old legend our family used to scare kids with. A long time ago, there lived a red-leaf wolf deep in the forest. It was cruel and merciless, and never spared a single animal, until one day, gigantic cosmic beasts walked out from the valley. They towered like mountains, like moving orchards. Their backs were covered in endless gemstone fruit that could never be fully eaten, and they possessed magical bean pods. As long as an animal touched one of those pods, it could transform into anything it wanted. They could even understand the languages of every species. So little by little, all the animals came together, but the red-leaf wolf hated that peaceful order with all its heart. So it stole the cosmic beast's pods and transformed itself into a blazing flame wolf. Then, it slaughtered 4 cosmic beasts and drove the rest of them out of the forest. After that, it triggered rock slides and cut off the rivers. It permanently trapped the last surviving cosmic beast outside the valley forever. From that day on, animals could no longer communicate with one another. The trust between every species completely fell apart too, and all animals were forced to live under the terrifying rule of the flame wolf. Grandma thought that story would scare me, but instead, the legend only made me even more curious about the world. Ever since I was little, I'd never been afraid of anything. All I ever thought about was how huge the world was, and how I had to see it with my own eyes someday. Until one day, I ran into a young Gavin bird that hadn't fully grown yet. It was starving so badly, it could barely stay on its feet. Being the soft-hearted idiot I was, I not only shared my family's food with it, I even taught it how to crack open the tough shell of edamame by hand. The moment those crunchy beans burst in its mouth, the little Gavin bird got so excited. It suddenly let out a sharp cry toward the sky, but it wasn't thanking me. It was calling for its flock. Very soon, more and more Gavin birds came rushing over. And after the newcomers tasted the edamame, they started calling even more companions over. Just like that, hundreds and thousands of Gavin birds flooded into the forest like an army. They devoured every single bean in sight. The food my mouse family had stored up for generations was wiped out completely. The entire forest turned into the Gavin birds' personal cafeteria.
What have you done?
And we mice went from landowners to dirt-poor tenants overnight. We were even driven underground, forced to survive off scraps the birds left behind. And me, I went from being the family's great explorer to becoming the family's greatest sinner overnight. Every time Dad looked at me, he got furious. He couldn't understand how he ended up with a screw-up like me. And I started blaming myself too. Blaming myself for not listening to the adults. And blaming myself even more for trusting others so easily. Until years later, I ran into that same Gavin bird again. Now whenever I saw a Gavin bird, my blood instantly started boiling. Before long, the two of us were fighting like crazy. But in the middle of the struggle, I accidentally fell straight into a tree hollow and somehow touched a magical bean pod. At that exact moment, all I could think about was that Gavin bird. Then the next second, I actually transformed into a Gavin bird myself. When my companions saw me turn into a Gavin bird, they thought I'd already been eaten by one. So, they immediately started throwing rocks at me. And just like that, my own family chased me right off a cliff. When I woke up again, I realized my sworn enemy, Ivy, the Gavin bird, had saved me. I was so terrified. I could barely get my words out, but Ivy and her 2 younger sisters thought I'd smashed my head in during the fall. To be fair, Ivy really had hit me pretty hard while saving me. She wanted to take me back to Bird Mountain for treatment, but all I wanted was to turn back into myself. So I secretly slipped away from Ivy and headed to the river alone. But there, I ran into that cuckoo fish again. The same giant fish that almost ate me when I was little. But now it wore a big, friendly smile. Completely different from the vicious monster I remembered. After hearing I was searching for magical bean pods, it even warmly pointed me in the right direction. It said it had once seen a glowing bean pod there. Hearing that, I was deeply moved. For a second, I honestly felt like there were still more good fish in this world than bad ones. So I set off on the journey alone, searching for a new magical bean pod. But somewhere along the way, Ivy secretly followed me again. I kept explaining to her that I wasn't a Gavin bird at all. I was actually a mouse. I only looked like this because I touched a magical bean pod. But Ivy refused to believe me. She was convinced I just hit my head too hard and lost my mind. The whole journey, the two of us argued non-stop until we finally reached a cave by the shore and found the glowing magical bean pod. But before I could react, Ivy charged straight at it. She wanted to grab the pod first, so I'd obediently follow her back to Bird Mountain for treatment.
No, don't touch it!
So
no,
you can turn back into a cuckoo, the strange creature you made up, so we can get back to Javin Rock.
No!
But the moment she thought about mice and touched the magical bean pod, Ivy instantly transformed into a mouse herself. And just like that, the two of us swapped bodies. Only then did Ivy finally believe everything I told her, and she finally realized that I was the little mouse she used to fight with all those years ago. With no other choice, we went back to the cuckoo fish again and asked if it knew where to find more magical bean pods. The fish told us it had heard legends about the cosmic beast before, and beyond the waterfall, there was supposedly a dead cosmic beast. Huge fields of magical bean pods grew around its body, so Ivy and I set off once again. But I still wasn't used to having a Gavin bird's body. I didn't even dare to fly, and could only slowly make my way toward the waterfall. But halfway there, we suddenly ran into the red leaf wolf. Ivy and I ran for our lives. The whole chase was packed with danger, one close call after another. In the end, we were cornered at the edge of a cliff, with nowhere left to run. We had no choice but to jump, right at the brink of death. Ivy kept guiding me, while constantly encouraging me, and at last, I finally spread my wings and flew. It was the first time Ivy and I had truly worked together, and without even realizing it, the wall between our hearts slowly began to disappear.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Watch out! Ah!
We're gonna die!
Don't panic! Focus on your lift! Drag and thrust! Feel the rising air flowing through your feathers!
I'm scared, Ivy!
And trust yourself! Flap, Ollie, flap!
My name is Ollie. This is my first time flying, because I'm not a bird at all. I used to be a tiny prime mouse, until I accidentally touched a magic pod, and instantly turned into a Gavin bird. And Ivy turned from a Gavin bird into a prime mouse. To turn back to who we were, we decided to search for another magic pod together. Along the way, under Ivy's guidance, I forced myself to learn how to fly. And she, for the first time, experienced the Prime Mouse clan's unique scent visualization. With her insane sense of smell, we kept escaping deadly danger again and again. From hating each other at the start, to slowly depending on one another, we gradually built a real bond through every crisis. Later, I found out something. Ivy's arrogant and dominant personality came from the fact that she had to take care of a group of younger sisters. After the cursed beast left, the Gavin birds lost their main food source. They could only survive by digging up tree roots, often going hungry from one meal to the next, and the whole tribe was on the verge of famine. Luckily, when Ivy was young, she once met a little prime mouse. That prime mouse helped them find new food and save the entire Gavin bird tribe. But she still didn't know that little prime mouse who saved her back then was actually me. The next day, Ivy and I finally reached the waterfall. But to our shock, this was the red leaf wolf's nest. Just as we were worried about how to sneak in and find the magic pod, a cuckoo fish actually followed us all the way there. That kind-hearted fish decided to lure the wolves away for us. Because he never had any friends, he just wanted to do something for Ivy and me. Ivy was moved by his sincerity. She solemnly promised the cuckoo fish that she would bring back a magic pod for him. That way, he could transform into either a Gavin bird or a pre-mouse, and we could all stay friends forever. While the wolf pack chased after the cuckoo fish, I and Ivy quietly slipped into the nest. But inside, there was only one single magic pod left. The fragile bond between us cracked in an instant. I wanted to go back and gather winter food for my tribe, and Ivy was worried whether her sisters had eaten enough. She needed enough beans as well. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore and revealed the secret buried in my heart. The little prime mouse who helped Ivy back then was me, but later, the Gavin birds took over that territory. The food the prime mice could find kept shrinking. My tribe might not survive this winter.
My own father, he won't even look me in the eye. And it's all because I trusted you.
Ivy froze. She finally realized how deeply she had hurt me before. But before we could say anything else, the red leaf wolves came back. I and Ivy kept shouting for the cuckoo fish, while desperately backing away. Then in one careless moment, We both fell down at the same time. And at the same time, we touched that magic pod. The next second, a flash of light exploded. When I opened my eyes again, Ivy and I had both turned into fish. Ivy, we're fish. Thanks to you, I'm even further away from getting home and saving my village. Looking at how defeated we both looked, the cuckoo fish actually tried to comfort us. He told us that beyond the Terror Cliff waterfall, there was a huge field of magic pods. But that place was also the most dangerous area in the entire valley. To climb up, we had to work together. This time, Ivy finally opened her heart completely. She said she had never forgotten the little prime mouse who saved her. She just never knew that she had made me carry so much pain and guilt. Then she sincerely apologized to me. And finally, the barrier between us completely broke. We made our way to the bottom of the waterfall. And sure enough, magic pods were growing all over the top. But the current was too violent. No single one of us could make it through. So the three of us stood shoulder to shoulder and decided to charge up together. We slammed our tails wildly, pushing ourselves upward with everything we had. We made it through the first obstacle, but before we could even breathe, a group of green-furred stone bears appeared, and they loved eating fish. Me, Ivy, and the cuckoo fish could only coordinate perfectly, darting left and right non-stop. We weaved desperately between snapping jaws. Barely surviving, we finally reached the second tier of the waterfall. But just as we were about to keep climbing, we realized the red leaf wolves were already waiting there. As we froze, not knowing what to do, a little wolf cub suddenly slipped and fell straight down from the cliff. He ended up hanging from a branch in midair. The wolf pack immediately rushed down to save him. The cuckoo fish wanted to take the chance to keep going, but I stopped. The next second, I swam straight toward the cub without hesitation. Seeing this, Ivy and the cuckoo fish turned back to help me. After a dangerous rescue, the little wolf was finally safe. The wolf father said nothing. He just looked at me deeply, then quietly led the pack away. Finally, we reached the top of the waterfall. I and Ivy turned back into our original forms. And now, it was finally the cuckoo fish's turn to choose. Would he choose to become a Gavin bird or a pry mouse?
Maybe I could just become the fire wolf.
Boogle?
There was never Boogle. There was only ever me.
The tail. You're the one. You're the one. You tore the valley apart.
You created the dam. You drove the zoo out.
Yes, yes, and yes. I'm good. What can I say?